With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This is from Daniel Hogan. Are the opening weekend numbers for Hobbs Shaw disappointing? Aside from opening lower than Fast and Furious, which came out 10 years ago, it's less than what Us, a small-scale horror movie, opened with earlier this year. Even factoring in overseas results, the movie, according to Deadline, needs to make $600 million just to break even, which I'm not sure even will happen with China still to come as a possibility. What are your thoughts? Are these numbers really disappointing? Or
I mean, look, it's always a little staggering to say number 1 at the box office and yet maybe disappointing. Was it a disappointing result? Let's look at the box office from this weekend. Hobbs & Shaw did come in at number 1, as expected. And as expected, as the projection said, it came in right at about $60 million. Actually made a little bit above projections at $60.8 million. Lion King only dropped 50%, going down to $38.2 million. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood pulled in $20 million. Spider-Man Far From Home made another $7.7 million. And Toy Story 4 took in another $7.1 million. So here we've got Hobbs & Shaw, top of the mountain, made what it was projected. It's number 1 at the film. And something else to keep in mind, other than Fast and the Furious films, I believe, if I'm not incorrect here, that $60.8 million represents the biggest opening for a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson film, not counting Fast and the Furious properties. So there's a lot of things that seem to be going towards the pro side of it. But bottom line, is $60.8 million a number that we can look at and go, wow, that's really impressive? When a number of months ago, there were a lot of people, yours truly included, that really didn't think that Hobbs & Shaw getting to $100 million opening weekend would be too awful challenging. I didn't think it was an automatic per se, but not challenging. I would have said it would have made $100 million on its opening weekend months ago. As we've been getting closer and seeing tracking numbers, we knew that probably wasn't going to happen. But still, Rob, to see $60 million for an opening, fans seem to be enjoying this film. The critics like it more than I thought they would. I enjoyed the film. It's a dumb movie, but it's actually quite a lot of fun. The audience is liking it. The people who've been writing into the show talking about it have been really enjoying it, and all that sorts of stuff. That's all good. But is it disappointing? Now, look, I don't think this film needs, I think Deadline is incorrect. I don't think it needs to make $600 million to break even, but it's got to make in the mid 500s. So it is, the bottom line is it's got to make a lot of money to break even. Asking if a movie opening at $60 million is enough of an opening to get it to break even, remember this. Jumanji, also starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, made over $900 million. You know what it opened with? $38 million opening weekend. Now, that's a rare thing to have a movie open that big and like that small, I should say, and go on to make $900 million. So that's a rare thing. So that doesn't mean it's going to happen here. I'm just saying, let's not count out Hobbs & Shaw just yet, because there are more markets for it to open in. It did do like over $180 million worldwide on its opening salvo here. So there is that. It could very well do it. But I will say, as somebody who likes the film, yeah, I think $60 million, despite being what they projected, I think you've got to look at that as a little bit of a disappointment. I get that it's the number 1 opening Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson film of all time, not counting Fast and Furious films. I get that Jumanji went on to make all that money. I get all of that. And I get that people are liking it, and I like it. I still think that $60 million has to be looked at as a disappointment. Rob, you see this. How do you evaluate it?
Well, you know, I also read about the international box office, and it's up to $180 million worldwide. And they did say that it's a slight disappointment, but it is along what they projected. I mean, this is not something they projected $100 million for, and then it opened at 60. It opened what they projected.
Right.
It's the 3rd highest opening for a Fast and the Furious movie of the entire franchise. And this is a spinoff, you know, and I think for the most part, I think the only person, and I have to say I'm on his side, is Han, who's laughing from the afterlife that this movie did not make $100 million. And that's what Justice for Han is all about, after all. But no, I think in actuality, I think it's going to do okay. I think they're going to be fine with it. Yes, it was a very expensive movie. I hear it's $200 million. That's why
yes,
it has to break even at $600 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of cheddar to spend on this film. Look, I think the franchise is healthy. I think this movie is going to be huge in China. I could see it,
which it
topping
hasn't
out.
opened in yet,
No.
by the way. Yeah,
I could see this movie topping out at 800 million worldwide, and they would be very happy with that.
Chris, as somebody who went to go see the movie, and you were at the press screening with me, how do you think the audiences are going to react to this? Do you think this can get, crawl over that $600 million mark despite its lower opening and break even, just depending on how the audience responds to it?
Yeah, I really feel like this is going to be a slow burn, because it's a fun movie. I, for one, am going to do my part. I have 3 friends who still want to see it. I'm going to go 3 separate times. I'm really excited about it. I really had fun at this. It's a silly, fun, good summer blockbuster. And like we talked about before, it knows what it is. And
yeah.
I feel like people are going to come out and see it. It's just not going to be a huge boom. It's going to be a slow little fizzle to hitting that number.
So the question is, guys, what do you think, for those of you who have seen the movie and for those of you who haven't, do you think that a $60 million opening is perfectly good, or do you think it's a little bit disappointing? And with that opening, do you think it can get into profitability, or do you think it's running the risk of maybe being a money loser? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.